There's a bigger fight, it can't be heard.
Wagon wheels, kind of big and kind of nice.
Hello, welcome to the Television Affair. My name is Johnny Robinson, and when I'm not writhing around on a pile of DVDs, I work at a supermarket in the meat section. But this week, a load of bats died in the air conditioning, and we ran out of meat, so I'm chopping them all up and selling them as spooky meat while I clear the backlog. This spooky edition of the Television Affair is all about creepy TV things. I put out some messages to see what things freaked you out, whether it was a TV ident, something from an advert, a public information film, or even something from a TV show. Be aware, I'll be including some things that might make you feel a bit uneasy, or some minor jump scares. So what exactly makes a thing that's not scary, scary? Imagination, uncertainty, and unexpected things. For instance, I once had a nightmare about the HTV logo. I'd watched a bit of HTV's Nightclub. I'd never seen the channel in that version. It played with my imagination, and my dream came up with something like this. Sometimes it's the uncertainty. I was talking to Blue Frog / Orange Frog, because he changed his name yesterday for some reason, and he came up with a few suggestions, and one thing that he said that didn't sit right with him was when a channel closed down. The uneasy feeling when the channel is dead, especially when it has a caption of something and you don't get a chance to read the caption. Like this from Heart TV's last broadcast, and this from Channel 1's closed down. I'll be covering Channel 1 more properly in the future, by the way. He sent me a clip of it when Sky's EPG cut off, and that happened so quickly that you couldn't even read the message. There is another version though, and this is a Virgin Media perspective. I suppose if you were trying to translate it into a human, for instance, it would be of somebody functioning normally one day, and chatting in a pub and stuff, and then they finish their sentence, and then they just sit there unresponsive with their eyes open. But the thing is, we all accept it as a society because it's a common thing that happens. So you walk away from them and they stay paused in that position. Then somebody comes along with a notice and hangs it on the neck and says, "This person is no longer active." Find out where this person's thoughts have moved to at sky.com. Old television, I feel, was a lot more scarier than current day television. I mean, it might be because I was a kid, but if you think about it, it was probably down to the analog technology and the stability of the equipment. Firstly, the regular close downs were a bit odd because they weren't necessarily spooky, but they could have been. This is usually when the channel would close down regularly for the night time. For a number of years, this would mean going to a station clock, playing the national anthem, and then after the television would just go blank. Then the announcer would return and say,
"And finally, don't forget to switch off those television sets.
Turn off your television and go to bed.
Don't forget to switch off, will you?
And please don't forget to turn off the television set.
Don't forget to switch off your set, will you?
Good night.
Good night. Good night again.
Good night.
Good night.
The TV set should be unplugged, lasting every night.
This was mainly because televisions used to have this habit of going on fire. It was a fairly good idea though, probably saved a few lives. I remember I was really into old videotapes and I used to see a lot of the close downs from over the years. The thing is, what would happen after the announcer would finish is a bit weird because sometimes the screen would go blank, sometimes it would just go to the test card. Part of me also thought that there would be a Nightmare BBC that would come on. Occasionally, something like this happens. And the freakiest thing actually does happen. Just imagine, it's 2:30 in the morning, and this fuzzy screen comes up on your telly, and it's like, what the fuck is this? Well, that's BMTV, silly. It stands for British Medical Television, and there's no footage of it online that isn't scrambled, but it's a secret channel that BBC used to broadcast overnight. You needed a special decoder to get it, and the NHS had these. This happened from around 1989 to 1992, and then this became a thing. This is BBC Select, and BBC promoted Select So it wasn't exactly a secret channel, but you did need to have a BBC selector to watch it, which is a decoder box. If you didn't, it would all be scrambled. The spooky thing about analog TV is the equipment. If it failed or didn't work properly every so often, that could put you into a scary situation. So some of the stuff would slow down or jump or even just go blank or freeze. You didn't know if it was going to start working again, if something was going to pop out of your screen, if Max Headroom was going to make an appearance and start glitching out, or if the screen was going to freeze awkwardly on a Dolly advert. Sometimes the words technical fault in caps would come up on the screen like it was shouting at you and like it's your fault. Technical fault and it's yours! It's like weird stuff when Blake Seven's video went wacky. Like when Star Trek fell off air.
Well, I'm sorry, Star Trek seems to have disappeared into space for just a moment. In the meantime, a little music and we'll hope to rejoin the programme just as soon as we possibly can.
Like when Popeye kept on going into CinemaScope and then they pulled it off air and Andy Crane had to fill for more than 5 minutes.
Oh, showbiz.
Oh, well, if that was getting any thinner, it'll just go... look, if it's good enough for Popeye, then it's good enough for me too. We've put children's BBC into CinemaScope.
When the speech goes at random.
The campaign they devised would be waged in the winter when the Indian...
And the time that Channel 4 melted. When this weird thing happened, when on LWT the actor messes up a performance and then the show just kind of stopped.
Little garden. I've got 2 cars, my own garage, and a lousy plaque that says I'm the doctor's wife of the year. And I count my blessings, Bunny Nash. I'm up. Isn't that a shame? Happiest woman in the world. Yeah, I understand.
Well, we apologise for having to leave Nobody's Perfect at this point. It's due to a technical problem which we're unable to rectify at the moment, but we hope that we'll be able to show you this episode in its entirety at a later date.
Or that video they used to play on Super Channel when it had an eclipse.
Via the satellite ECS-1. Shortly, the eclipse of the satellite will occur, and this is happening nightly around this time until April the 12th. This means we will be experiencing an unavoidable loss of power and will therefore be closing down for a couple of hours in a short while.
At Philips, we can't prevent an eclipse, but having invented the video cassette recorder, we can suggest an alternative source of viewing. Philips, take a closer look.
And then sometimes it was the idents. John from NCL said, "Love it now, but when I was a kid in the 70s, 80s and 90s, Time TV's ident. If I were to pick this apart, it's got to start with a background and then the gold pretty much jumps straight in there with some electronic horn and then it's pretty much over quite quickly." Sounds like a terrible porn, really, doesn't it? Somebody who has a fear of that logo might experience it more like this. Computer Tom and I created the Yorkshire Television emergency logo in 2006 after I exploded his brain with cherry sours. But it was all his vision about how he felt about the Yorkshire Television logo when it went off. I use the term went off because it was like an alarm. Well, at least to him it was. What else could shit you up more than a loud pop? In the mid-1980s though, it toned down a bit and it wasn't so pop. And actually I think its 1987 ident was probably the best ident it ever had. It starts off quietly, then builds up, and then the shock factor will have been reduced by that point. Any fear though towards the orchestral fanfare expected so it wouldn't be as shocking. The 1996 Channel 3 Yorkshire ident, though, was a massive low, clearly made using a horrific MIDI file that they found under Bruce Gingell's floorboards. Computer Tom also suggested the TSW logo, apparently because it's weird.
Oh my God.
Lucy Morrison had a hit list of things. Now it's time for the Lucy Morrison Countdown of Hell. And number 4, the Rage ident from ABC3. Rage was a music show that aired overnight in Australia. She says, before the channel shut down for the night at 9 p.m, I just remember the static effect and then the shouting scared me. Anyways, I watched it every weekend and I love it, but it did scare me to hell and back. The bloody idiot PSAs. PSAs are a public service announcement. We call them PIFs in this country, public information films. She says that these would air on almost every channel in Australia that wasn't distinctively for kids. They would include realistic scenes of car accidents and people dying. I've seen some of these and it makes Casualty look like the Sooty Show.
Okay, John, well look, unfortunately the passenger from the other vehicle has died and...
John, just at this stage, I just have to give you an official caution. You're not obliged to say or do anything, or anything you say or do may be recorded and given as evidence. Do you understand?
They would usually have the line at the end of, if you drink and drive, you're a bloody idiot. Winging in at number 2, Greenpeace NZ's Ghost Birds. She said it had the Radiohead song No Surprises over a slideshow of a bunch of silhouettes of birds for about 30 seconds until it cut to an oil-covered bird being peeled off the ground and revealing a silhouette like the others. It then pans out to show hundreds and hundreds of those silhouettes. And number 1, the Bravo ident.
DIY really does my head in, man!
This brings us to our next point of focus, because this was already on my list. It had been on my list right from the start when Blue Frog / Orange Frog and also my son Finn, who watches idents with me, all suggested it was a thing. If I want to watch the Bravo idents, I kind of have to skip them. Lucy says, I don't have first-hand experience with these, but when I was first watching TV ident compilations, these were in the middle of them and they scared the shit out of me. Specifically the cheese grater, the toilet and the blender. These are genuinely freaky idents. I actually love the humour in these idents, but actually I think they are a bit much. It's like someone who worked at Bravo was like, yeah, you know Living and their idents? Nah. Now we need that but inside out. I thought the ones that followed in the early 2000s was a bit better though, and the 2003 ones was definitely a backward step. I remember thinking when they first aired, was this it? Like, is this what they've actually swapped them out for? I've mentioned Bravo's origins in TV Affair 1, so feel free to have a look about that. And also, I will be revisiting Bravo on a special that I'm making about Flex Tech in the future. The next one is really easy to explain, and I'm going to count it in 5, 4, 3, 2... Fourscore is a well-known scary ident for many. I was surprised actually to hear that though, because I didn't have an issue with it, but there was a version with a build-up, so again I'm not sure if that would help anyone who had a fear of the ident rather than it just going BARP right in your face. But at least you can see it's coming and then you can hide. Amirul Hakimi, sorry if I've said that wrong, said that the Carlton Select logo being set on fire was a second surprise when I was watching a close down video. I think anything with fire, I think we can all safely say, can be quite scary on the basis that fire can be sudden and also the outcome of the fire cannot be good. I think it's actually supposed to look like a gas hob, so it shouldn't scare you too much, but some would say there wasn't enough fire, so here's more fire. Globe Reviews says, the TV theme and titles to the Tales of the Unexpected horrified me, and I still hate it. Yeah, I can see that. I mean, firstly, the music is quite eerie, but I think also the 1970s naturally comes across as a bit seedy, and some of the horror from that area is really janky. So, yeah, it all just kind of feels a bit odd. Now, the guy who did the music to Tales of the Unexpected was called Ron Grainer, and he also did the music to Doctor Who and also Prisoner and Depto and Son. Sweet Stevie Aaron says the World in Action music was quite scary, really, wasn't it? Yes, it was twofold. Firstly, because of all of the blurry and scary shadowed man, and then also because of music. I mean, who cannot be scared by that organ sound? It's like Dracula music. I think it was supposed to mean it was all serious. I think it's all come out as more of a scare. Diddly! I was also not allowed to know who Deadly Ernest was, and I wasn't allowed downstairs when he was on because he was too scary for me, and then my dad would make this boogeyman laugh, and then I would run away upstairs. It was something like It turned out that actually Deadly Ernest was really cheesy and not scary at all. Me Media Tech says Channel 4 had adverts in 2016 for a product recall on synthetic humans with no context whatsoever before and during The Simpsons. 11-year-old me was completely terrified and was for years after seeing the advertising campaign.
However, in recent days, a small number of our models have been experiencing some technical difficulties. Whilst these are isolated incidents, it is extremely important you monitor your synth for any unusual behavior. It is vital you do not attempt to reset a malfunctioning synth yourself, as doing so may void your warranty.
I'd say actually that's probably one advantage that we have in media nowadays, is that they probably really thought out how to use the technology to make stuff more scary. But this was part of a show called Humans on Channel 4, and it was all about an AI uprising in the not too distant future. I remember seeing the trailers and the fake adverts for it, and I thought that they were actually done really well, but really freaky. But to be fair, that was the whole point of the show, so job done. Chris Elliott says, when I was a young lad, I had a fear of the puppets from Spitting Image after having a nightmare where I was chased around my parents' house by the Margret Thatcher puppet. That sure is a dream. So until my mid-teens, I couldn't see anything with them on without looking away from the TV. Spitting Image puppets are actually really weird. I wonder if this applied to other puppets though. Like, there was a show called Round the Bend on CITV, which was amazing. That had a crocodile called Doc Croc, and he was a Spitting Image puppet. On a side note, I loved Round the Bend, and it didn't last long enough. I thought it was actually a really creative show.
False teeth from beyond the stars.
And so the world is in the grip of an army of false teeth.
Mamma mia!
Mon Dieu!
I don't believe it!
I say. Only one man can save the planet Earth. Unfortunately, he's on holiday in Spain.
Hello, Mom!
So we turn instead to this man.
Oh dear, this is terrible, truly awful.
What is it, Roger?
Rick Astley.
Oh, it's awful.
Tune into next week's thrilling episode of False Teeth from Beyond the Stars, when you'll hear Roger Prentice say,
Clanfair Puckwin, Gigo Gerrit Wind Robul Lanticilio Go Go Go.
They also did the I Can't Believe It's Not Butter Cows. Rob Mortimer says the old Anglia logo, that used to freak him out, along with the Channel 4 Score logo, and some of the songs that went with the ITV Schools pre-Channel 4. I'm guessing the old Anglia logo was this one, because they used it until 1988. I mean, for me, I can just see a metal man on a horse spinning around on a record deck. Well, I can't see the record deck, but I'm pretty sure that's how they made it spin. No, I don't know about... it's coming to guess! One of the things I hated when I was a kid was the Crime Stoppers segment. That used to scare the shit out of me. I'm not sure if it was all the mouths or the Jaws type music. I guess actually, to be fair, that was the build up to the... Also, the mouths ended up not looking very human, a bit alienish, and like not like mouths anymore, but I don't know what they did look like. I really didn't like the McDonald's adverts as well. I can watch them now, but in what world did anybody think that this was a great idea? They look all fucked up. Ronald, for instance, does not look like somebody I want to go anywhere near, and I'm okay with clowns, but this dude, fuck right off. Then there's the purple turd, and he's got another friend that's literally got a burger for a head.
To meet his friend Big Mac too, they're off to McDonald's.
Why is he okay with everyone eating little versions of him and putting himself at risk at McDonald's restaurant?
This is the shortcut, Ronald.
Then there's the Hamburglar. Oh my fucking god, burn him right now.
Rubble, rubble.
Where's Hamburglar then?
Looks like he's cut and run.
I once had a dream with Ronald McDonald and another fuck spooky suited thing called Welephant.
Lots and lots of boys and girls end up in hospital with bad burns because of these. Were you burned playing with matches?
Yes, Welephant. Run away with the spoon. I was playing with my dolly, then I found some matches on the sideboard. I couldn't get away. I got burnt, it really hurt.
Then there's this kid who looks fairly normal until, oh my fucking god, his face is burnt. The horrors!
Playing on my own in the shed. Only lip on them. Never play with matches again. Ever.
Matches can look pretty, but they're very dangerous.
These boys and girls have learned a rhyme. Matches, matches, never touch. They can hurt you very much. Matches, matches, never touch. They can hurt you very much. Matches, matches, never touch. They can hurt you very much. Welephant says, never touch.
In the second video, well, it's not to the same standards, and I've only seen this one on the internet.
Now it's coming up to bonfire night again, and I've come to see Welephant about his friend Spikey. The other day, Spikey and his friends were getting ready for bonfire night, but they were doing it all wrong, weren't they, Welephant?
Oh no, what's that stupid bird doing now? Spikey, what are you up to?
I'm building a bonfire.
Well, you're getting it all wrong. Oh, look.
What?
You should be stacking all that wood flat. It isn't bonfire night yet.
Alright.
What's this?
It's a tyre.
Tyres? You don't have tyres on bonfires.
Why?
That's very dangerous.
Oh.
A tin of paint?
Yeah.
We don't have paint on either, or aerosols. All this open space, away from houses, trees, overhead cables and fences.
Yeah.
5 minutes later.
We only have wood and paper on bonfires.
Okay.
I used to actually get squeamish about some of the PIFs that used to be on the telly. One was the beach with the glass. There's another one where someone knocks a bottle on the floor and then the girl falls over on the bottle and then screams.
Everyone's got an excuse. What's yours?
It could be part of the cause of why I don't like to see blood. Blood is one of those things that stays inside your body and it doesn't come out. So when I'm at the blood test and I go to the doctors, I never look at anything. Whatever they take out, if they say they've got some blood, fine. They've got some blood. I don't care if my blood's fucking green. I'm not looking at that shit. Now, another thing that I spoke to Computer Tom about this, and he said it was real. There was this one time when Coronation Street started, and then a hand came on and ripped the screen off, but he said it had something to do with Albion Market, which was another program created by the people who did Coronation Street, and you can find that on the internet, but you can't find the actual thing of it being ripped off the telly. Every so often there's something on TV that just doesn't sit right, and it just is all really uncomfortable. And a good instance of that is when I first saw the Riddlers. I think even before seeing what those puppets look like in the animation, they kind of freak you out a bit. Also, somebody thought that All Sorts needed a new character, so the team were like, this show's too normal. You know what kids love, don't you? Kids love boxes with faces.
Talking box?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. And what's wrong with the talking box, eh? I mean, you can talk, can't you?
What? Yeah.
Up and down this land, people will be making faces on their boxes because they love our show. What actually happened was that children were burned. Burned, internally burned. My eldest is turning 16 in a few weeks, and when they were about 7, I introduced them to Chucky. This came about when Computer Tom gave me the DVD, and I wasn't really impressed with it. They hated Chucky. Why? Well, I don't bloody know. I think the screen probably had something to do with it, to be fair. And then the weird violin music and the... like you're going over one of those bridges that makes your stomach fucked up. LJ Merritt Productions said the Deke Entertainment closing logo. I think they may have been referring to the green one though, because that's a well-known one. They also said the old BBC VHS opening and closing logo. I'm going to take a guess on this one, that it's the globe one. Or this one. I actually once got a job at a place called Inrix, which was based in the BBC and BBC Bristol. And Inrix also does the traffic and travel for commercial radio stations as well, but it's based at BBC. Anyway, when I first got my BBC pass, I couldn't stop hearing this music in my head. It was just like a proper dream, but with that music in it. Unfortunately though, my time at the BBC was cut short because I'd got a job at the AV station and they promised me the world, and then they ended up firing me for dyslexia. They also never paid me the money I should have got paid when my contract was finished, mainly because I said that the guy who fired me sounded like Rob Brydon's DJ in a box.
Yo, somebody get me out of here, I'm stuck in a box.
I could name the group, but I'm not like that. Wait Until Next Year says that they spent several years terrified of the LWT logo because they associated it with Fraggle Rock. They left the room whenever it came on.
Future Johnny here. Now I've just come across a thing about the LWT situation because TVS actually was the ones that produced that Fraggle Rock. Basically, Fraggle Rock had different versions across the world, and the one that was specifically for the UK was made by TVS. Channel 4 aired it a bit later on, but I think they aired the American version, and if LWT was playing...
Solar Spoons says, used to hate the Open University ident from the 1970s to the 1980s with that sinister trumpet sound. Scared me silly when I was a kid. See, I used to quite like the Open University ident, but the only one I remember is from the 1990s, which wasn't the same. I would say two things made this odd. The first one was that as a kid, you don't know what a university is. So for some reason, the programming is what I would all describe as brown programs. They're all a bit, really boring, but actually they're all very interesting when you get into it. Another shock video ident is from the That was from the video collection, and it was on a load of kids' TV VHS tapes from the 1990s. JTL Productions says that he didn't like the 1992 American version of the BBC video logo and finds it quite unsettling. mainly due to the way the animation starts way too close to the camera and it all seems really jerky and off-putting. And this one also had a church organ-y sound, which again you'd associate with Vampireland. Right, that's it for this slightly late spooky episode of The Television Affair. I'm not really sure what video's coming up next, but hey, I've got a few options, and you'll find out when I do. Thanks very much to our team members, Joseph Adams, Stephen Bride, Hooter Noodles, Manu 2001-3, and Chris Elliott. The executive producer is Computer Tom. I've been Johnny Robinson, and I'll still be Johnny Robinson after this video's finished. Thank you, bye.
Ooh.